In this series, in the pre-Christian teachings of Yeshua, we're going to talk about the good and the evil formations, the Two Yezerim, the good and evil inclinations of the heart that were spoken of by Yeshua. Now, in the wisdom schools of the ancient Hebrew sages, before the time of Yeshua, there had developed what we call a theodicy, an explanation of why, if the world is good and the universe is good and it was created by a good God, why there could exist evil and why human beings could have evil within them. And this explanation is very old. It's at least 2 centuries older than Yeshua. We find explanations of it from literature before the time of Yeshua, and we also find some interesting things in Hebrew texts of the book of Genesis. You see, the story of the book of Genesis is about the formation. We call it the creation, but it's not really the creation, it's the formation of things. And when it says, and the Elohim formed man, they formed Adam, they formed humanity, because Adam was androgynous, contained both a male and a female, and all the Elohim contributed to the formation of Adam. That word for to form a human being was based on the Hebrew word Yater, which means to form or to shape or to bring together, to fabricate. And it implies to the Kabbalists that the human soul is a microcosm of the macrocosm, that everything that is out there in all the heavens and all the 10 heavens and the 8 eternal heavens of the olamim of the Abba, the Father, Mother, that all these things are within. That's why Yeshua said the Malkuth, or the sovereignty of Godhead, is within you. And so the human soul is constructed out of every aspect of all the rest of the formation of the universe, that it was really an emanation from the Abba. And in this formation, however, because things are being formed in a dualistic universe, things are coming from a perfect reality into a dualistic universe, there is always an action and a reaction. There's the object and there's the shadow. And what we find is that they came up with the doctrine of 2 formations. There is the real formation, which is associated with what we call the Zelim, or image of the Elohim, the image of God, the spark, the divine spark within. And there is another formation, another Yater. And that Yater is a shadow formation, an evil formation. It is the opposite of liberation and growth and evolution. It is that which confines and that which tries to stop all good things. It is basically a force, the force of selflessness, which is the impulse that comes from Godhead, is countered by a force of selfishness. And so we have then 2 Yeters, 2 formations: a good Yater, the Yater ha-tov, and the evil Yater, the Yater ha-ra, that it produces within the heart of mankind 2 impulses: the good inclination or good impulse, and the evil Yater or evil impulse. And this dualistic concept is ultimately rooted in the idea of selfishness and selflessness. It's very much parallel to and probably influenced by some of the ideas of Plato that he expresses in the Timaeus, which is actually borrowed from the Hermetic doctrines of the Egyptians. And we know that many of the Kabbalistic ideas of the divisions of the human soul and so on in Hebrew Kabbalah, the oral tradition within Hebrew religion, date back to the Egyptian funerary knowledge and so on. Now, what we have in Judaism is always a path of 2 ways. There is the spirit of truth, emet, which is, there's even a reference to an angel of truth, and there is a spirit of error, an angel of darkness. the sons of light versus the sons of darkness. Both shine in the heart of man. The counsels of the Spirit of truth are the spirit of humility and slowness to anger and great compassion and so on. The counsels of the spirit of error are greediness and slackness of hands in service of righteousness, and wickedness and falsehood, pride, haughtiness, etc. So these concepts existed centuries before Yeshua came onto the earth. And when he talks about these two impulses in the heart, that out of the heart of man come all the good things and come all the evil things, he is speaking about this doctrine of the two Yezerim. Now notice that I have the word Yetzer down here at the bottom of the screen with two yods. Instead of Yetzer, it's Yetzer. Well, there's no such word as Yetzer, and yet we find in the very early pre-Christian versions of the book of Genesis that we have recovered archaeologically, that story of the formation of Adam in the book of Genesis is described by using the word Yetzer with two yods. And that is because young children were taught when they learned to read the Hebrew scriptures that there were two Yetzers within the heart of man, and this is the explanation for that. So you will find that in ancient manuscripts, Yetzer. The Testaments of the 12 Patriarchs contains important information from the kabbalistic wisdom schools. It was written originally in Aramaic in the 1st century before the Christian era. And the Testament of Reuben is the one that we're really concerned about. He speaks about the 7 spirits in man. 7 are appointed against man and are leaders in the works of youth, and 7 are given at his creation for the good works of mankind. That is the image of God, the good Yetzer. Each is a duality. There are good and evil aspects to each of these impulses, these Yetzerim, and each has an aspect of the 8th spirit of trance, which in its good form is divine inspiration, and its evil form is delusion and dream. In this slide, I'm supplying you with the text and the place you can find it on the internet. I will not read it because we don't have time for that now. Now, if we relate the information we get in the Testament of Reuben to the kabbalistic explanation of how the good and evil Yetzerim came into being, we find that the Yetzer HaTov, which is the divine spark or the image of God in the heart of every being and in humanity, or the good impulse, is rooted in the 7 spirits or sephirot, or intelligences or senses of the divine image in the soul plus an 8th. The 7 spirits plus an 8th are the powers of the divine image, and they're related to the senses, not to the physical body. Knowledge is the first and primary, and then the life seed itself, which is a life force, and sight, which is psychic, and hearing, which is psychic, and smell, which is psychic, taste, speech, and love. That is the power of procreation. Now, in the creation of the 2 Yetzerim, as mankind is incarnated into flesh, these become dual in nature. The 8th is the source of divine revelation and the dayspring for the prophets, but also the source of dream and fantasy and delusion. And the life force is also the root of where the evils of injustice come from. Psychic sight becomes deceit, and spiritual teaching can become pride. Teaching is associated now, as you see, I'm associating these with the 7 chakras, because they associate very well, and that's an interesting thing about the 7 spirits of the Testament of Reuben, is they associate in the physical body with the physical chakras. Discrimination can become inattention and ignorance, and the power of manifestation in the solar plexus can become the power of aggression, and the source of nourishment in the body can become gluttony, and the source of love can become lust. Now, the evil impulses, or the source of evil in the human heart, is from the evil Yetzer, the evil image. And here is how it's generated. Originally, there's no Yetzer hara, no evil impulse in the divine image or the tree as we represent it kabbalistically. And we should point out here that the supernal triad of Keter, Hakma, and Bina is always considered to be a unity. It is very similar then to what we would call the eighth spirit, and probably is one of the places where the supernal triad developed in Kabbalistic teaching. When Adam, humanity, is divided into Adam and Eve, and the sexes are divided, and then they are given a coat of skin and driven out of Eden, which means they are incarnated into flesh and into physical form, then the spirits, or the Sephiroth, prolapse, and they associate with organs like the stomach and the liver, etc., things like this. And in this situation, they're vulnerable, because the Yetzerim hara attached as vampiric klipot, or shards or husks of negative inverted energy. And that inversion is an exact inversion, exact opposite of the prolapsed tree, so to speak. And that's rooted in the mortal nature of flesh to influence and twist how the spirits express. And that is the root of the evil impulses within the human heart. More information can be found in these places.